Buju indinoy maganadok. Anin. Kagegabo indishinikaz. Mekanak and dudem. Mekanak wajuing and dunjaba. Beishoga kabakang and danongom. Apjigo miigwech bizindawig. And what I said there was a traditional Ojibwe protocol greeting. Hello, all of my relatives. My name is Kagegabo. I'm Turtle Clan. I'm a descendant of Turtle Mountain. I live close to Minneapolis today. And I'd like to start off by saying, thank you all so much for listening to this live Ojibwe Word of the Day broadcast. I'm incredibly grateful for every opportunity I have to talk about Nimishoomis mo'onanan, our Ojibwe language and our Ojibwe culture. So this is something I look forward to every week. And tonight's term it's an incredibly important relationship term, and it's Nimishoomis. Nimishoomis. It's a relative term. It means my grandfather, Nimishoomis. And this has a lot of cultural meanings in the language, in particular with the culture. So one is a family term, and on a personal note, I really didn't grow up with grandfathers. I didn't know either of my grandfathers. Nimishoomis Abanik, my late grandfathers. But during vacation, I'm on winter break right now from school, and I had the great pleasure and privilege of having my parents here with my family. And my son got to hang out with Nimishoomis son, with his grandfather. Moose, my dad. And when I saw that, it was so touching for me. And this was something he mentioned too, that he really didn't grow up with grandfathers, was that relationship that you have with a grandfather in your family. So that's an incredibly important relationship that you'll have in your life. This might be a person who, is at their stage in life where there's a lot more appreciation for youth, for watching little children develop and grow and learn with you and have fun and play. And it was something, I thought that was very magical. And so I was really grateful to see that. When I saw it, it made me think of that word, akiwenzi. Akiwenzi. He or she, it means in Ojibwe, old man. But literally it means aki, the earth, and that wenzi comes from wenji, to come from. So it's referring to a stage in a man's life when he is at that fourth stage in life, and he realizes that he comes from the earth, and that he is the earth and the earth is him. And that was like, at that point it made me think of ceremonial terms too. Because most of the time when you're an Akiwenzi, that's when you'll be bestowed, when you'll receive this great gift from the Creator to be called Nimishoomis. It was that's something I heard at a conference, that grandchildren are the Creator's gift, the Manadu's gift for getting older. And I totally saw that. And then in that context of coming from the earth, it also made me think of other ceremonial terms. One was, when we use this term in ceremony, could be for objects that in English we really wouldn't call our grandfather, because that's referring to someone we're related to by blood, and also someone who is a human being. And that's not always the case in Anishinaabe Moan, or in Anishinaabe Ijitwawan, in Ojibwe culture, or the language. One of the times we use this term Nimishoomis is, and from one of the beings we refer to as Nimishoomis, would be the sun, Jesus. And so I know for a lot of old time and Gete Anishinaabe, waking up with the sun and greeting the sun as my grandfather would be a very traditional protocol greeting of beginning the day with a sema and saying miigwech Nimishoomis. Thank you, my grandfather. Another one would be with, for example, in the Madodoswan, when the asin comes in. And asin is, madodos one is a sweat lodge. And an asin is a stone. And when the asin comes in to the sweat lodge, it's glowing red. And this being is greeted as Buju Nimishoomis. Hello, my grandfather. And that's very interesting. In the language, asin is a living being. So I would refer to a rock the same way I would refer to my son, my partner, my friend, my relative, as a living being. I would have to use the same sort of terms to describe the stone as I would them. And also during like a ceremony like that, when the pipe comes in, the opwagan, the sacred pipe, you can also refer to them as Nimishoomis, my grandfather. And so you're acknowledging them with a relative term, as someone who is dear to you. And it made me think of wow, what an important distinction. So when we're thinking about referring to these inanimate beings in English as relatives, another one would be the drum, dewe igan. When you're with a chid dewe igan, like a big drum, or even just a drum, you can refer to this being as well, and that is also animate in the language as Nimishoomis. One of my Ojibwe teachers always said, if you're at a drum, at the nimi ding, at the powwow, go and bring that drum some tobacco, some asema, and say, miigwech Nimishoomis. Thank you, my grandfather. And when you look at it, for me, referring to all of these, in English, they're inanimate things. But in Ojibwe, they're living beings. And that if I can refer to the stones, the rocks that we find in the soil, in the case of a pipe, both the rocks and a tree. And if I'm looking at a drum with the wood, as well as the bashgwegan, the leather, and I'm referring to all of these beings as Nimishoomis, as my grandfather. One, I think Anishinaabe is showing a great deal of humility in saying, you have been here far longer than me. And in fact, you are showing me great kindness. What you're saying at this point when you're referring to this being as a relative, you're not even saying as a relative, you're saying as a grandfather, as someone who has been here much, much longer than me, as someone who loves me. And in showing me that love, in showing me that pity and compassion, and in showing me that sort of blessing that I get from a healing, Ojibwe naman and Anishinaabe, they bless, they pity, and they love unconditionally the human being. And all of those beings become then grandfathers. They become relatives. And I think in our modern day society, the more that we seek to extract resources from the earth, I think that if we don't use those sorts of terms, or if we're not even aware of them, that these are animate beings, that these are relatives, then we can very easily take too much. We can very easily act without care, without concern for someone who in another language, in another worldview, we'd refer to as a relative. And not even as a relative, as a grandfather. As someone who can heal me, as someone who loves me, as someone who has shown great pity and compassion and love towards me by healing me. By healing me in a sweat lodge, by healing me with prayer, by healing me with the sound of a drum in a song. And so to take a moment to talk about that distinction in the language and to share that with Indinaway Makanuk with all of my relatives is something I consider a great privilege. So, apajigo miigwech bizindawig. So thank you so much for listening. Mi'u wakidoyan nongom. And that's all I'll say this evening. And I'd just like to remind you all that if you know anyone who's interested in our language, our culture, our history, our spirituality, please feel free to like and share this video. Aho, mi'u wakidoyan. That's all I'll say. Dagasana and Guamazik. Please, all of you, do take care. Banama minawa odisabandamang gigawabandaman. And the spirits will decide when we see each other again. meet you.